Since the beginning of the Steam summer sale, over 200,000 refund requests, refund games that people have purchased, has been made. And basically, this isn't actually the number of refunds that have been made, it's just the requests. However, it is a sort of an alarming number when you actually look at it on the face value. However, considering it is the Steam summer sale and their sales are definitely going to be off the charts, it actually seems like a net positive in my opinion. Michael here with another topic video. So some people have actually voiced some concerns about this. They're like, hey, you know what? It costs developers and Valve money to actually end up doing this sort of thing. You know, actually refunds, they cost people money because doing these sort of transactions, because of the way all these systems work and stuff like that, it ends up being a net loss when something is refunded. However, it does end up playing into the positive to where people are using it mostly as a demo system here, or at least that seems to be the case. And there are some refunds going out because basically games just end up not working. And so far, the Steam Summer Sale has actually been fairly great as well. There's some really, really great deals all across the board. And so people are probably less concerned about buying games. People are more willing to actually take the risk because they know they can refund it if they don't like it or it doesn't work. And while I hate the idea of using refunds as a sort of demo system, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, I do think that the general sort of trend is actually a positive one. We actually see these refunds, and it just shows that, you know, people are actually buying games. You can't have refunds if people are not buying games. And on the Steam support page to where it gives you these stats, it was like 205,000 and some other number. I can't remember the smaller numbers I saw. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, basically it shows on Steam support page where it gives you the sort of time estimates and how many requests are going through for their transparency thing. They started a few months back, and it shows you a huge spike. And before that, there wasn't all that many refunds going on. And when the Steam summer sale went off, it was like, oh my God, all these refunds showed up out of nowhere. And that's because sales went up massively. And this is a huge benefit for everyone except for the people who are making terrible games. So let's talk about who these refunds are actually going to hurt and injure in this sort of period of time and in the long run. And that's mostly going to come down to literally one type of game, or two types of games, I should say, but they mostly come down to the same thing, but I guess some of them would be abandoned. Anyways, games that don't work or games that are just outright bad and yet are marketed falsely. And so these are going to be games like your No Man's Sky, for example, that are marketed as something completely different. They still haven't fixed their Steam page, by the way. It still shows the E3 screenshots and trailers, even though that is technically false advertising, and I'm surprised no one has sued them over it yet, but I'm sure they don't have any money to actually sue for, so it's probably not worth it. And so these types of games are definitely going to be hurt by this, and I have no doubt that a few of them have already seen some major hits from this. And so, yeah, that's probably going to end up happening, because you'll end up hearing some sort of cases where people are like, oh, well, I saw this game on sale, I wasn't sure what it was about, and I just decided to pick it up to try it out. And it looked cool in the screenshots, but then I tried it, it was actually terrible. That happens on Steam all the time, and before the Steam refund system, we literally couldn't do anything about it. You could end up going to the Steam support page. If the game didn't end up working, you could get a refund. I know my friend had to do that with the Witcher games because his PC couldn't run it, and so he was able to get a refund. So refunds have been a thing. It used to be just way more difficult to actually get refunds. And so now that it's actually an automated system, it's actually fairly easy. It's one of those cases to where people are definitely going to use the system if they can. Now, the alarming part is when people are actually using these as a demo, and the people that are actually going to benefit from this are the people with good games, and possibly the niche games as well. Now, these people are going to get some kickback, because when people buy into a niche product, they may not be expecting a niche product, and so you can run into this one of those situations where it's like, oh, well, we got a bunch of people buying our weird multiplayer game, and then they didn't have friends to play it with. And so they refunded it. And that's mostly down to advertising, but it also comes into the concern that people are using it as a face value demo instead of doing research on the games that they're picking up. Maybe it's a niche title, but it's very, very obvious that it's a niche title. And so it'll be like on there, it's like, this is a niche title, guys. And then they'll just completely ignore it and be like, I'll just download it anyways. Just whatever, I'll just refund it if I don't want to. And that is concerning because that actually, costs the developer money. However, there is the positive side effect of it, is having a demo would as well. Although also demos are not particularly the best way to do things, and I'll talk about that in a minute for a second, because a lot of people are using like, oh, well, developers should make demos, and that's not exactly a great thing. But we'll talk about that in a second. But the face value thing is that some people would end up trying these games, and they're not afraid. They're just like, whatever, I'll just download it and see if I like it, because I've heard it's good, whatever. And then they end up trying it, and they're like, oh my god, this game is amazing, and then they end up keeping it. And that is a confirmed sale. And that sale may not have happened without refunds, because they're like, oh, well, I have no way to know if I like this game, and I don't have the like 15 extra bucks, I could spend this 15 bucks on another game that I actually know I'll like, but they end up spending it on a niche title instead because they have this sort of guarantee that they can get their money back if it's something they don't want. Now, obviously, Valve does sort of limit you on the number of refunds you can do, especially automatically. I'm sure if you bought a game and it didn't work, even after you're after that limit, they'd be a little bit more consumer friendly, but then you have to actually go through the manual support page, and trust me, that is a freaking nightmare. But for the most part, you know, people are actually buying niche games. However, people are saying that this is kind of concerning because people are using the system as that sort of demo system, and it can run into a situation to where basically people are not necessarily researching the games that they are buying, and they don't see that it's a niche title. And this can run into the situation to where people are saying, oh, they should need demos. The thing about demos is demos cost money, and so you actually have to, as a developer, be like, all right, are these refunds going to outweigh us, or are the demo going to outweigh us? Because if you make a good game, and the chances of people holding onto your game are pretty high, then you don't have to worry about a demo, because basically these refunds aren't going to hurt you all that much. I just ran straight into that. That was dumb. Anyways, yeah, so basically these refunds aren't going to hurt those people. However, a demo, once again, people really, really like to have demos. However, demos do not always represent a product. There used to be a huge problem with demos in the past where a demo would either be terrible, lack, certain qualities of the game that people would enjoy. Maybe it was a very specific level. Maybe it would contain spoilers, especially some of the half-arsed ones that a lot of publishers would end up putting back out in the day. I keep running straight into these things. I'm being an idiot. They would actually just be like certain story sections of the game is like, this is what happens to the final boss. And you're like, wait, what the hell is going on when you play the demo? But then when you actually pick up the game because it seemed awesome or something, you're like, oh my god, the entire game's spoiled now. And so, yeah, demos are not particularly great. And you could obviously kind of put that at the developers' end and be like, yeah, developers which would put more effort into their demos. But at the same time, you can't expect that. Demos cost money to produce, and so you can't expect everyone to have a demo. And demos would not necessarily make more sales. There are plenty of games with demos on Steam. There are tons of them, actually. There's a lot of games with demos. I was actually surprised when I went to go look for demos, it gave me a lot of results. Obviously, there's a lot of games on Steam, so it's not even a percentage of them, but for the amount that people can complain about not having demos, there are a lot of them. And so basically, you can end up trying one of these demos, and, if you like the game, try it, whatever. But the thing about demos is they don't always represent the product, and so you want to play the product. And I think that having, a time trial sort of thing, I know Microsoft still does this with Recore, and so basically you have 2 hours that you can end up playing the game. I know a lot of old PC services and stuff like that end up use this system as well, and they were always annoying, and I found ways to crack them because I was a little kind of shit. And, yeah, so basically, no, I totally didn't steal games when I was a child. But basically, I ended up finding ways to kind of cheat around the system, and so that's why it's not necessarily used anymore. But at the same time, those were kind of nice systems because you could try the game legitimately for a certain period of time. And no, you couldn't get down to the meat of the game, but you could at least see if it was worth the time investment. And so that was kind of nice. And so I think that Steam should actually have an option for that. I think it would be a really, really cool option, and it would kind of help with that in a lot of cases. Having this sort of 2-hour period that you could have just try the game. Obviously, it wouldn't work for every single game because you'd have some games to where basically it would be like, oh, well, this game's only an hour long. I guess I'll try the free 2-hour demo. And then basically they just get a game for free and get the experience, and that's kind of not a good thing. And that's one thing that people were concerned with refunds as well, although there's definite evidence that it doesn't affect those types of games, unless they're bad, in which case it does. But bad games, regardless, are going to be hurt by it no matter what, because refunds is a consumer-friendly thing. Releasing a terrible product is not a consumer-friendly thing, even if they try. I understand that some games are just bad because they just weren't designed well, and that's just not 100% their fault. It's just they should put more time into it. Maybe they should patch it up and stuff like that. And not everyone can release a good product. Sometimes, you release a broken product or something like that. Even the best of the best can release something that's not particularly amazing sometimes. So that's just the thing. But aside from that point, obviously, this has been a good thing so far. I think the Steam Summer Sale is going really, really well, and I have a feeling once Steam actually releases some numbers, we're going to see some really positive figures. And I think that a lot of indie developers, especially from other developers that are actually starting to release their sale numbers on the first week, because basically analytics takes a few days. But now that we've actually had a few days, some people are getting their first day sort of stats on the Steam Summer Sale, and they've actually seen some really good numbers. Now, before this happened, we actually had a percentage on the number of sort of refunds and everything on products that sold over 100,000 sales. And so basically that number could be anywhere between 2% and 6%, although it didn't seem like anybody was reporting over 6%. That was good product, at least. And so I don't think any bad products sell over 100,000 either, so I think it's probably going to be safe to say that pretty much 6% is going to be that sort of landmark area. And so basically you could actually kind of adjust how many actual refunds have been made and how many actual sales have been made during the Steam Summer Sale based off of this, but I'm definitely going to say the fact that things have not been refunded as much as people are saying, because there's definitely going to be the case where people are looking at their wish list to buy games, especially like me. Like, I bought a ton of games on the Steam Summer Sale, and basically they were all from my wish list. I didn't go around and buy like random games. I think Tabletop Simulator wasn't on my wish list, but I'm finally picking it up because I have some friends that are going to be doing YouTube stuff with it. So yeah, but for the most part, I think it's going to be a definite benefit thing, and I'm going to be really excited to see if we get any sale stats. I think that I think these are going to be a little bit hidden on that sort of stuff. They always kind of like shroud it a little bit and don't really give us exact details on the sale numbers, but we're definitely going to get some at least indie feedback. I know a lot of indie developers have been going out and being like, this is our sale numbers, and so I'm really excited to see those numbers and seeing how much this sort of refund actually helped these developers and things like that. Because on the face value, it seems bad. It's one of those situations where it's like, oh, they're losing money and money's going back and everything like that. But for the most part, people are less afraid to buy games, and that is definitely a good thing, because one problem that we've had, especially with digital distribution, is buying products. People are just afraid to do it because if you don't like the product, then yeah. And while I personally don't share that mindset, because I always research my games a ton and I only buy games that I like. In fact, I can't think of a single game I've bought that I've been disappointed in. I mean, there was one game that I did refund, which was Burnout Paradise. I really, really wanted to play it, though. But I literally could not get it to work, and there was another game on Steam that was on sale, and I'm like, you know what, fine, I'll try this refund system. It took like 10 hours to get a refund, and then after that, I just bought the other game. I can't even remember what game it was, to be honest. So, yeah, anyways, you know, that's kind of that. And I think that's kind of how I work, and I think a lot of other people, especially in the gaming space, are going to work that way as well. And so I don't think a lot of people are going to refund all that often. But having it not being a concern is definitely a good thing. You know, basically the general consumer is going to be like, I could just try the game, refund if I don't like it. And while that's not a healthy practice, and if this trend ends up continuing and it ends up becoming a huge thing, especially when non-sales go on, and maybe this sort of Steam sale shows as like, oh, it's really easy to refund games, and people start abusing the system, Valve is going to have to step in. But I have a feeling, considering it affects their bottom line, it's going to affect their trust with developers as well. They're definitely going to have their jargons on that one. They're going to be like, yeah, we need to fix this immediately, and we need to make sure everything's working. So, yeah, hopefully this is a positive sign for the future, and they'll probably end up getting more and more sales as people kind of get used to the idea of refunds. So, yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this one. You can also leave your comments on this whole ordeal down below. Have you guys refunded any games? Have you ended up knowing any friends that ended up refunding games? Like I said, I don't really refund games. The only game I've ever refunded was one that literally didn't work. I know back, even when I bought like physical media, the only game that I ever brought back was one that I bought. It was used and it was broken. Yeah, I know, buying used games, now I know that's a bad thing. But when I was 10, I didn't. And so, yeah, don't scrutinize me for that. Don't buy used games, though. It's it doesn't send any money to the developers, and so that's not a good thing. Unless the game is like super, super old and you literally can't buy it any other way, then, I mean, you don't really have a choice at that point. Anyways, that's off topic. So yeah, leave your comments below on what you think about this topic. Do you think it's going to be a positive trend, or do you think it's going to be a negative trend? I know there are some people that are really, really concerned, especially some smaller indie devs that are like, you know, while it's not affecting us now, in the future, if this ends up becoming a huge thing, it could. Like, let's say, you know, over 50% of the sales end up getting refunded or something like that. Obviously, that's not going to happen, as for reasons that I stated in this video. And the fact that making a refund in the first place is not exactly an easy thing, and it's not a process that's unlimited. There are going to be people that can no longer refund games if they end up abusing the system, and so, yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but some people do, and obviously leave your concerns in the comments. As I said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to stop failing at this eventually. As you can see, the game in the background has been Geometry Wars Evolved 3. It's like, I always forget it's like Dimensions Evolved 3, and I can never remember the order of it. I did a nice checking out of it that actually does a nice overview of it. It's got a ton of mechanics. I don't play it that often. I mostly play it in the background of videos or when I'm testing out recording stuff. But for the most part, it's like a really, really fun game. It's just kind of a really fun score attack, and I love what they've actually done with the game. This is a game that I actually bought on sale. I bought it at 50% off a while back. I don't know what it's on the Steam Summer Sale, but if you're looking for it, this is a great score attack game. It has the old evolved modes and everything like that from the first and second game. And so if you still want to play those modes, they're there, but it has a bunch of extra content. So I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Although I think the original ones are like only like $2 or something like that. And so if you want the original ones, they exist as well. And obviously, do check out the Steam Summer Sale. There's been a lot of people going around and being like, "This are games that I recommend." You can end up checking out my reviews for games to end up looking for. And basically, I only do reviews of games that actually have some noteworthy value. And so I don't do reviews of terrible games. So if you're looking for good games, end up checking those out. I also have a bunch of other series that have a few games. One series called Checking Out is basically me going through very first impressions. That can be one that you can end up checking out for recommendations. I know people are looking for recommendations of games, so there you go. Otherwise, I don't got nothing else for you. I'm going to keep playing for a little bit, and then I'm going to probably go to sleep. It's kind of late. See you in the next video.